In 1978, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill cemented the slasher genre in pop culture with Halloween. Due to the success, it got a sequel with Halloween 2. At the end of that film, Michael was burned alive and was pretty much dead. Producers wanted to make a sequel, but Carpenter and Hill didn't want to make another film with Michael Myers due to his death at the end of the film. So they decided to go in a different direction with a movie that wasn't connected to the first two films. The producers somehow agreed, and Carpenter got Nigel Neal to write the film, as Carpenter was a big fan of his Quatermass films. Neal stated that the film was more so about psychological shocks than physical ones. Dino De Laurentiis, who owned distribution rights, didn't like it and wanted more violence and gore. Because of this, Neal didn't want his name on the credits, and the director, Tommy Lee Wallace, was brought in to punch up the script, and he got sole writing credit. It's no secret that Carpenter and Hill wanted to make the Halloween franchise an anthology franchise with a different Halloween horror event happening every year, as this is now widely known. However, due to the poor box office and fans hating that there was no Michael Myers in the film, he was brought back in the next movie with Halloween 4, which is actually an underrated sequel of its own, and I do recommend it, but moving on to part 3. Despite not garnering enough attention when it first came out, it's now become a major cult favorite among horror fans, but I still wanted to talk about my thoughts on it. I really love the idea for this movie. It was really cool and creative. The whole idea is magic computer chips being part of Halloween masks that cause children's heads to be turned into bugs and snakes to bring Halloween back to its roots when children were sacrificed to the demon Samhain. If that doesn't sound like the weirdest yet most awesome plot for a horror movie, I don't know what does. The way that it worked was to bind the supernatural with modern technology. A really interesting and inventive idea. It's less like a horror movie though, and more like a mystery thriller. I thought the way that the plot unravels and you find out more and more was really interesting. Plus, Tom Atkins is awesome as always. He's not this super good looking awesome hero either. He's divorced, has a bad relationship with his kids, and is kind of a shitty guy. I like how he isn't just this super perfect hero. He's interesting, layered, and more relatable. The relationship he has with Ellie is kinda shoehorned in there and not developed incredibly well, but it's not really all that distracting, so it doesn't bother me that much, despite her being half his age. Yikes. Even though it's more of a mystery thriller, it does have some genuine creepy moments and has some really dark moments as well. I also love the music by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth. It's one of his best scores, no doubt about it. It's simple and creepy like the original Halloween score, but it's heavier on synthesizer. It's genuinely great. I recommend listening to it. The track is called Chariots of Pumpkins. It's a shame that this didn't do well because if this was called something else, it would have been a lot better. That was actually a point Wallace tried to make in post production. He begged the producers and execs to change the title to something else, but they stated that they wouldn't make any money if it was called something else. Wallace later explained that it was a doomed production from the start. If it wasn't called Halloween 3, it wouldn't have been made, but the fact that it was, people would have hated that Myers wasn't in it. Even with the fact it's one of the better known cult films, it still has its naysayers, but most of them are pretty much just like the original naysayers of the movie, who hate it because Myers isn't in it, which I find to be rather ridiculous. Here you have a genuinely great thriller with great dark and horrific moments with a great score and great acting, yet it sucks because it doesn't have Myers in it. Really? The only bad review I've seen of this movie is from film master Adam. Even though I disagree with most of his arguments, he still had actual arguments outside of "Duh, Michael Myers isn't in it." But despite the fact that it doesn't have Myers in it and sticks out from the rest of the franchise, it's still a genuinely great horror thriller. It has a great premise. Dan O'Herlihy is a great villain. Tom Atkins is fucking awesome as always. It has an interesting story and a great score. Plus, the practical effects are also very well done. Even though this has gotten way more love in recent years, I still highly recommend it.